Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank all the organizers and Dr. Sudeep sir and Sona ma'am for giving me this opportunity. So, we are starting with the triple negative breast cancer session, and I have to speak about 5 abstracts or trials regarding triple negative breast cancer. I'll discuss about the 3 checkpoint inhibitors in non-metastatic TNBC. So, trial 1, NeoTrip randomized study, in which we will discuss about PET-CR2 neoadjuvant chemotherapy with or without atezolizumab in early, high risk and locally advanced TNBC. So we all know that TNBC usually have a poor prognosis and there is a need of new therapeutic approaches, and blocking PD-L1 may promote durable responses by immune modulations, and we have seen in metastatic TNBC, specifically PD-L1 population, that adding ATEZ to Nab-Pacli has improved survival. So based on this data, the ATEZ was tried in neoadjuvant setting in non-metastatic TNBC, and current analysis regarding PET-CR is available. Long-term OS data is still awaited. If we talk about the study design, it is a randomized phase 3 trial stratified by geographical location, stage of the disease, and PD-L1 expression. So basically TNBC patients, early high risk or LABC, were randomized to ATEZ with chemotherapy versus placebo plus chemotherapy. Chemotherapy arm was nab-paclitaxel plus carboplatin. And after neoadjuvant systemic therapy, patients were referred for surgery, followed by anthracycline-based regimen as per investigator's discretion. Primary endpoint was EFS at 5 years after randomization of last patient, and key secondary endpoint was PET-CR. If we talk about PET-CR data which is available, in overall population, it has increased absolute PET-CR by 2.6%, which was not statistically significant. If we talk about the multivariate analysis of other factors which associated with PET-CR, as we have seen that adding atezolizumab to neoadjuvant therapy did not significantly improve PET-CR. However, PD-L1 positivity significantly improved PET-CR irrespective of the addition of atezolizumab. Investigator conclusions were there was no significant increase in pathological CR after adding ATEZ to neoadjuvant therapy in TNBC. And if we talk about AEs, IRAEs and transaminitis were more in ATEZ arm. However, we have seen from the data and other immunotherapy data that PET-CR is not the only surrogate marker for long-term survival. So EFS data are still pending at this point of time, which is the primary endpoint. So I think we should wait for the EFS data of this trial to jump onto any conclusion. Comments regarding this trial. One reason for non-significant increase in PET-CR might be around 50% of the patients were LABC. If we compare this with Keynote 522, in which only around 25% of the patients were LABC. Again, all patients did not receive anthracycline, especially in the neoadjuvant setting. There is some data that there is immunomodulation with anthracyclines when we use it with checkpoint inhibitors. So that might also be one of the reasons for decreased response with ATEZ. Again, both subsets were not well matched for tumor infiltrating TILs. So high TILs were found in the chemotherapy arm, and subsets with high TILs as such respond well to chemotherapy. So this might be the reason for high PET-CR in chemotherapy only arm. But again, as discussed in other studies also, that PET-CR might not be the only surrogate endpoint, as you have seen in Keynote 522 or JEPAR-NEO studies. Coming to the abstract 2, which is a phase 2 JEPAR-NEO study, which I am discussing the survival outcomes with durvalumab with or without neoadjuvant chemotherapy, durvalumab plus neoadjuvant chemotherapy versus placebo plus neoadjuvant chemotherapy in early TNBC. So the background of this trial, this is a phase 2 JEPAR-NEO trial, and primary endpoint of PET-CR was improved with durvalumab with the interim analysis, but again it did not reach its statistical significance. And here we are going to discuss about survival outcomes after median follow-up of around 3.5 years. Coming to the trial design, it is a phase 2 trial, and patients with early TNBC and LABC were randomized to chemotherapy with or without durvalumab. Chemotherapy backbone included nab-paclitaxel followed by anthracycline-based EC regimen. And all the patients after neoadjuvant therapy were referred for surgery. no adjuvant durvalumab was given to these patients. Primary endpoint was PET-CR and secondary endpoints were invasive disease-free survival, distant disease-free survival and OS. If we talk about IDFS data, at 3 years, IDFS was much better in durvalumab arm, around 85% as compared to 77% in the placebo arm. And it was with hazard ratio of 0.48 and statistically significant. All the subgroups fared better with the durvalumab arm. If we talk about distant disease-free survival, 91% in immunotherapy arm as compared to chemotherapy only arm with hazard ratio of 0.31, which was again statistically significant. And 3-year OS was also much better in durvalumab arm, 95% versus 83% with excellent hazard ratio of 0.24. So author's conclusion was that addition of durvalumab to neoadjuvant chemotherapy significantly improved IDFS, DDFS as well as overall survival as compared to only chemotherapy in early TNBC, though there was no statistically significant increase in PET-CR. Multivariable analysis again confirmed that effect of durvalumab was independent of PET-CR. However, additional research is needed for discussing the relation of PET-CR improvement in long-term outcomes specifically when immune checkpoints are used along with chemotherapy. Again, some specific comments about this trial. This was a phase 2 study with 25% patients having stage 1. Neoadjuvant checkpoint studies, again, we don't have any specific immune biomarkers like PD-L1 or TILs for endpoints, in contrast to metastatic TNBC where we have PD-L1 cutoffs. So again, we need some surrogate markers and biomarkers for choosing these patients with immunotherapy. And TILs in residual disease post durvalumab, again that suggests a good prognosis. So which questions the role of adjuvant checkpoints inhibitors in these patients. However, more data is needed for for these adjuvant checkpoint inhibitors. To summarize, adding durvalumab to neoadjuvant chemotherapy improves survival despite modest PCR benefit. All the survival parameters were improved with durvalumab arm despite no adjuvant checkpoint inhibitor given in these patients with or without PET-CR. And however, role of adjuvant checkpoint inhibitor needs to be defined, which we'll discuss in further abstracts. In next 3 abstracts, I am supposed to discuss about Keynote 522 data. Abstract 3, we will be discussing about EFS data with pembrolizumab plus chemotherapy versus placebo plus chemotherapy in early TNBC. And abstract 4, again, we will discuss about the exploratory analysis of EFS according to residual cancer burden with neoadjuvant pembrolizumab, because we know that only PET-CR is not an important marker. Other parameters also need to be considered in mind. We know that PET-CR with chemotherapy is increased with increased survival in TNBC, and addition of pembrolizumab to neoadjuvant chemotherapy has already demonstrated better anti-tumor activity and increased PET-CR in early interim analysis. And after median follow-up of around 3.5 years, we have also have overall population EFS data and exploratory EFS data of population according to residual cancer burden. If we come to the trial design, Keynote 522 is a randomized phase 3 trial when patients were stratified according to T stage, N stage, schedule of carboplatin, and patients were randomized to chemotherapy with or without pembrolizumab. Chemotherapy backbone included carboplatin plus paclitaxel followed by anthracycline-based chemotherapy, and patients after surgery continued to receive pembrolizumab to complete 1 year of immune checkpoint inhibitors. Primary endpoint was PET-CR, secondary endpoints were PET-CR as well as OS, EFS, and exploratory endpoints of survival were measured by according to PET-CR by subgroups and according to residual cancer burden. We see that primary analysis at interim analysis 1, delta for PET-CR was 13.6% more in pembrolizumab arm, and at interim analysis 4, EFS was much better with EFS events around 15.7% in immunotherapy arm as compared to 23.8% in chemotherapy only arm, which was statistically significant with hazard ratio of 0.63. We can see that Kaplan-Meier curves are wide apart with 84.5% survival as compared to 76.8% survival at 3 years, which favors the pembrolizumab plus chemotherapy arm. If we see according to subgroups whether according to T stage or N stage or schedule of carboplatin, pembrolizumab arm fared much better in all the subgroups. If we talk about the exploratory EFS data, patients were divided into 4 categories according to residual cancer burden. RCB 0, that is patients with PET-CR. We can see that patients with PET-CR at interim analysis 4 were again around 7% more in the immunotherapy arm. And RCB 1, 2 and 3 were patients with mild, moderate and significant residual disease burden after neoadjuvant therapy. And we can see that there is a less number of patients in higher RCB groups when we offer immunotherapy. So apart from PET-CR, there is also a shift to lower RCB group when we offer immunotherapy to the patients. If we compare EFS data according to the RCB groups, we can find that significant benefit was found in RCB 2 category, that is patients with moderate residual disease, with around 20% increase in EFS with pembrolizumab. If we see the hazard ratio, then clearly pembrolizumab arm fares better in most RCB arms, but significant benefit is found in RCB2 category. This was a pre-planned EFS analysis, so this is a significant analysis. So we can conclude that patients with PET-CR as well as patients with RCB category 2 specifically fared well with pembrolizumab. So, conclusions from the author were that in patients with early TNBC, neoadjuvant pembrolizumab plus chemotherapy followed by adjuvant pembrolizumab after surgery improved EFS than neoadjuvant chemotherapy alone. And this benefit is seen in all subgroups irrespective of PD-L1 status, T stage, N stage or age. And if we talk about exploratory analysis, then patients with higher RCB score have worse EFS irrespective of the treatment group. However, neoadjuvant pembrolizumab shifted patients to lower RCB categories and a maximum benefit was found in RCB2 category. So, investigators concluded that pembrolizumab has EFS benefit even in patients who don't achieve PET-CR, which might suggest a contribution of adjuvant pembrolizumab. However, this trial was not planned to gauge the benefit of neoadjuvant or adjuvant pembrolizumab. So, that is a difficult question to answer on this trial. Abstract number 5, in which I am going to discuss about the health-related quality of life data of the keynote 522, which was presented at ESMO 2022. So patients were, basically patient-related outcomes were reported according to QLQ 30, according to questionnaire of BR23 and visual analog scale. And these assessments were done during neoadjuvant setting, during adjuvant setting, and at regular interval of 1 year after that. We can see that there is, according to LS mean score calculation, there is no significant difference in any parameters, whether it is emotional functioning, physical functioning, or overall well-being, or even breast-related symptoms. There is no significant difference between the two arms, if we talk about neoadjuvant phase as well as about the adjuvant phase. So, investigator concluded that neoadjuvant pembrolizumab plus chemotherapy followed by adjuvant pembrolizumab did not have a meaningful impact on overall quality of life versus chemotherapy alone in early TNBC, and this was found in all the questionnaires utilized in all the domains of related quality of life. But important discussions which arise from this data, that in patients with placebo arm, no capecitabine or olaparib was allowed in this trial. So ideally we need to have comparison with adjuvant pembrolizumab or adjuvant capecitabine or adjuvant olaparib in germline BRCA versus only placebo in patients with no PET-CR. However, results of CREATE-X were not out when this trial was started, so probably that might be the reason that capecitabine was not offered in this subgroup. Again, this trial does not allow to gauge the relative contributions of neoadjuvant or adjuvant pembrolizumab. So, whether adjuvant pembrolizumab adds to the benefit or not is again questionable. However, we can conclude from all the above trials that tumor shrinkage and PET-CR are not the ideal surrogate markers for long-term efficacy, especially when checkpoint inhibitors are involved in NSAT. So further markers and studies are needed for this. So to conclude, overall checkpoint inhibitors definitely in neoadjuvant setting have significantly benefited metastatic TNBC patients. And specifically with keynote 522, we can say that pembrolizumab in neoadjuvant setting as well as in adjuvant setting adds much. However, the benefit with adjuvant pembrolizumab is still a point of debate, and whether adjuvant capacitor in olaparib or pembrolizumab, what has to be used, probably this will be answered by further studies. Thank you.